Welcome, everybody. Tonight we have the first meeting of Sahavas for everyone. I'm here with my wife, Vanessa, and I'm Laurent Weichberger. It is October 16th, 2024, and it's a special night. It is the anniversary of Baba's new life. So I wanted to start with two quotes. If I share my screen, and I want to also have everybody check in first before we do that. But can everybody say their name and where they're calling in from? We're calling in from Charleston, South Carolina.
I'm calling in from Mariposa, California, near Yosemite National Park and Majorana.
And tell us your name.
Oh, Ron Greenstein. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Good to see you, Ron. Who else going to?
This is Ken Nunzik. I'm in Oneonta, New York.
Awesome.
Donna's in the other room.
Okay. Is she going to join us?
Probably not, but she can hear.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
Ricky Crowley. I'm in Conway, South Carolina.
Okay. Awesome. Who else? Diane, do you want to go?
She may not be with us right now.
Okay. So I'm going to try to share my screen. And can you see this if I share this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ricky, you want to read it for us since you're not going to be here for the whole meeting?
Okay. The new life is endless, Mayor Baba. Referring to the spirit expected of anyone wishing to follow the new life, Baba dictated, although the new life has emerged from me, I am not at all bound by it. Plans 1, 2, and 3 of the new life, with their 4 phases of labor, begging, gypsy, and Langadi life, will function as long as I am physically alive. But this new life is endless. Even after my physical death, it will be kept alive by those who live the life of complete renunciation of falsehood, lies, hatred, anger, greed, and lust, and who, to accomplish all this, do no lustful actions, do no harm to anyone, do no backbiting, do not seek material possessions or power, who accept no homage, neither covet honor nor shun disgrace, and fear no one and nothing. By those who rely wholly and solely on God, and who love God purely for the sake of loving, who believe in the lovers of God and the reality of manifestation, and yet do not expect any spiritual or material rewards, who do not let go the hand of truth, and who, without being upset by calamities, bravely and wholeheartedly face all hardships with 100% cheerfulness and give no importance to caste, creed, and religious ceremonies. This new life will live by itself eternally, even if there is no one to live it.
Thank you, Ricky. That was beautiful. I was contemplating that message because I read it this morning, and I was contemplating, and I thought, what is Baba doing here with this message? I sent it out to a lot of different people. I got such a variety of responses from Baba lovers. Some were really discouraged by the message and felt like they couldn't live up to it, and Baba was setting the bar too high. And others were really inspired by the message and felt like, thank God Baba gave us this message. And I heard everything in between. And I was reading it, and I thought to myself, this is Baba describing what he and the Mandali were living while they were on the new life. Because I was thinking of Mani and the others, and I was thinking, they didn't perform any lustful actions. They were living, relying solely on God. They were doing all this. And then I said to another fellow who was discouraged, a Baba lover, longtime Baba lover, I said, Baba doesn't expect this of you. He doesn't expect you to be perfect and live up to this every day. This is something that we can strive toward. And kind of reframing it like that really helped him. What do you all feel about this message from Baba about his new life?
I agree with you, but almost all of Baba's messages are an assortment of very, you could call them idealistic uh, goals and aims. And then on the other hand, he tells you, if you don't understand it, don't worry about it, just love me or something like that. He does both because he has to deal with every single being on the, in creation. So he's
Right.
got to have a wide scope for the
Yeah.
people that are are running, toward him, and the people who are walking, and the people who are just sitting there with him.
And some people are crawling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Laurent, you and I had a conversation, kind of went the same way about that, and I expressed my feelings about feeling that sense of like, wow, this is just so big, so beyond anything I can even imagine myself being able to do. That I sometimes taken those things as discouraging rather than seeing it as you described. And I thank you for that. That perspective was very helpful.
Yeah, and by the way, when I was sharing that with you, I'm not judging your experience. I can imagine being discouraged by reading that. I personally am not discouraged by reading it, but I can imagine somebody who could be. So I think all the different responses and reactions are valid. I see somebody has their hand up. Go ahead. Is that Marilyn? You're on mute.
Oh, is that I did put it up. I just wanted to say I agree that it's something to aspire to. And it's always been something to aspire to ever since I was introduced to Baba. And the beauty of it is that he helps us to do it. If we are willing, he helps us to live the new life. And he takes away so much of those accumulated sanskars in his time, in his own time. He
Beautiful.
does. So really speaking, it's like laying your life down and letting him do his work on you and everyone around you. All right, that's all I want to
That
say
sounds like
right now.
surrender. That sounds like surrender, Marilyn.
Okay. That's good.
Who else wants to share about, or should I read another one? Who else wants to share about the New
Go
Life?
ahead. Well, someone can share what they
I'll
think.
share about it. I feel that spending my first 20 years with Baba very intensely, reading a lot of Baba stuff over and over again, I've kind of internalized that, whereas I'm not always in touch with it. But when difficult situations come up, I always get right back to it if I focus on that. It's in me. I've absorbed it just from knowing it for a period of time. It's like I may drift away, but it's always there to come back to. I've really internalized that message, and it surprises myself sometimes that I always turn back to Baba, or to God, and trust situations and just know that I know the whole picture of, and I can let go. Whereas a lot of people don't have that. We're very fortunate that we've had that experience and we know that it's real and we can trust it. So it's not easy.
Awesome.
That's all I could say. It's not easy, but it's there, thank God.
Thank you, Ricky. That's beautiful. I see Ken, you put up your hand.
Yeah, I can only agree with what everyone said, really. There's been periods in my life where I've been very focused on that new life message and as inspirational and aspirational. And then other times when it sort of slipped out of my, everyday awareness or something and focusing on other things. But I feel it's central in many ways to the coming new humanity or the core essence of the world's awakening, in a sense, Baba says it will live eternally, even if there's no one to live it. So hopefully there'll be, if not this life, next life, or one after, we'll be living it.
Yeah. Can I ask you a clarifying question, Ken, before you finish?
Sure.
You said it'll be important to the new humanity. Do you mean the message itself, or the new life, or what?
Yeah, I think as it is to us, but if Baba becomes more well known, it seems to me one aspect of not turning into just another religion or faith, or I'm sure there'll be sort of semi-cults or something will develop, people will create, but that message seems so universal and so pure that you can't do much with it except try to live it.
Yep. I love that. I saw Rick and Jill put up their hands. Who wants to go first?
I just wanted to say that without any question, the message, the spirit that I sense in what Baba says about the new life is deeply inspiring. I mean, it really aligns with something that I have felt, I guess, as long as I can remember, even back to being a small kid, that there was some way to perceive reality that was enormously freeing. And I guess this aligns with that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. Jill, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I really like what I think Rick just said. It's the new life, the way it's being treated at times does bewilder me because, I hear people say the discourses are for the future and we can't really live up to them. And it makes me wonder why anybody thinks we can do the new life. I mean, when they were on the new life, even the Mandali all failed. That's why Baba stopped the way he'd begun it and began the 3 different ways of doing the new life. And in the end, no one, even Erich, could claim to have been able to live it. And Baba said that, I think Baba said himself he was having trouble living the new life. So it does bewilder me to hear people talk about, oh, well, we can try to live the new life. To me, the wonderful thing about the very common sense high ideals Meher Baba gives us is that in the midst of a world that often seems to have lost its moorings in that direction, Baba gives us, and they're common sense ideals that have been here for thousands of years in every faith. And for Baba to say that they're there, including the new life, that gives me, it supports, the instincts I think we all share towards those high ideals, even if we know we're not ready, to go after some of them.
Yeah. And
So,
thank you, Jill, for sharing that. And that's why I said it from my point of view, it's about striving, not, judging each other or judging ourselves about failing. Ron, you got your hand up.
So when you said striving, it's very similar to what I was about to mention about how we can incorporate all these great things that Baba has set forth as something to live in accord with. And that is his simple message of remember me. Be thinking of Baba. And that can be done in various ways. And one thing that comes to mind is something I read and stuck with me when I was reading, I believe it was the first book of Conversations with the Awakener. Might have been one of the other 4 or 5 of them, but it was in there. And the Awakener says, remember me in small things. And if we think about it, a lot of life is small, we would consider small things. And so if we remember him in small things, we're remembering him a lot. But if we just remember him in big things, don't remember him quite as much. And then he adds, remember me, more importantly, he says, remember me in the smaller things. And most importantly, remember me in the smallest things. Sort of reiterating the idea of the smaller things. And if you think about it, if we remember him in the smallest things, what are the chances of getting really getting our egos attached to it? It's much less of a possibility when we think of them as being small.
I love it.
Yeah, it's quite a wonderful idea, I think. So
Can I piggyback on what you're saying there, Ron?
why not? That's what I think we're here for.
Two things come up when I hear that. One is the version I love of that quote is, remember me and I am with you and my love will guide you. I've used that one with Baba for decades. It just helps me so much, and I can remember it. It's short enough to remember it. And then the other one is Mother Teresa said, we can't all do great things, but we can do small things with great love. I love that quote too. Okay, looks like we're doing well so far here. You ready for me to share one more thing, and then we can see what we want to make of this? Don Stevens told me that the Song of the New Life, it was explained to him that, can everybody see the Song of the New Life?
I see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it was explained to Don by one of the Mandali. I believe it was Adi K. Rani. I'd have to check my notes, but let's just go with Adi K. Rani. It was explained to Don that the Song of the New Life was very important to Mayor Baba, and he himself had it printed, and he went back and forth with Adi to double check it and proofread it and all that before they printed it, and that it had an extreme amount of attention from Mayor Baba, and that Baba and Ghani wrote it together, and that this song was extremely important to Baba. So I thought it was going to be perfect for today. Do I have any volunteers to do verse 1? Somebody
Call
want
on somebody. Call on somebody.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Listen to the silent words of Meher Baba. The life story of all lovers of God is based on the practice of these words. If you are serious about living the new life, this new life, then wholeheartedly renounce this ephemeral existence.
That's right. Who wants to do 2?
I can do 2.
Okay, go ahead.
We have taken to this life in which we rely only on God, and this, our will to do or die, is strengthened by the oath taken. We are merrily singing the song of hopelessness. We are inviting all calamities and difficulties.
Who wants to try 3?
I'll go for 3.
Well, go for it.
We neither wail over lost hopes nor complain about broken promises. We neither covet honor nor shun disgrace. Backbiting we know not, nor do we fear anyone. This is now the color of our new life.
I'll take this next one. No confusion in the mind now, nor any ties left. Pride, anger, lust, and greed we know not. We have no religion, nor care for physical and mental fads. The Sheikh and the Brahmin, typifying all castes and creeds, are now sailing in the same boat. Who wants to do 5?
I'll take it.
I'd like to do it.
Go ahead.
There is no small or great now for us all. The questions of disciple, master, or godhood no longer arise. Brotherliness or fellow feeling is the link that exists, and this contributes to our present enjoyment of suffering.
Thank you. Who wants to do 6?
I'll give it a shot. This world or the next, heaven or hell or heaven, we no longer bother about. Shaktis and cities, occultism and miracles, we no longer think of. All these false impressions, thoughts, for us have been purged from the mind. What has value and importance for us now is to live in the active present.
Beautiful. Who's going to do 7?
I'll do it. Dear ones, take seriously the words of Baba when he says, although now I'm on the same level with you all, yet all orders from me, good, bad, extraordinary, you should all carry out immediately, leaving the result to God.
Yep. Who wants to do 8?
I'd like to. Even if the heavens fall, do not let go the hand of truth. Let despair and disappointment ravage and destroy the garden of your life. You beautify it once again by the seedlings of contentment and self-sufficiency.
Who's feeling 9?
Okay, I'll do it. Even if your heart is cut to bits, let there be a smile on your lips. Here I divulge to you a point worth noting. Hidden in your penniless hands is treasure untold. Your beggarly life will be the envy of kings of the world.
God exists indeed, and true are the prophets. Every cycle has an avatar, and every moment has a wali. For us, however, it is only hopelessness, and helplessness. How else should I tell you what our new life is? Avatar Mir Baba Ki Jai. Well, I think with those 2 quotes together, the one after the new life and Mani said that they would sing that song together around the fire with Baba when they were on the new life. He loved to sing that with them. And that's of course, the English translation. What an incredible song. Anybody want to share their feelings after reading that song? I thought that was beautiful that we all got to read it together.
I read something recently that made sense to me. I think it might have been in Lord Mayor, I'm not sure, but the last verse was added when might have been Baba or Baba and one of the Mandali came up with a thought that someone reading it might think it was sort of like a communist manifesto. And so they put, because, it's saying no masters, no, and all of that. And so they added that verse about God indeed exists in 2 of the prophets.
Nice. Well, I love that. I love that whole thing. I love all of it, but the whole thing, it seems perfect to me. Somebody else?
I get kind of a little stuck with the high ideals. I find myself again kind of railing a bit against the how big that all seems.
Yes, I understand.
There's parts that personally, still mean a lot to me. The one I read, let despair and disappointment, ravage and destroy the garden of your life you replanted. That's helped me through so many
Right.
difficult times when I might just sit down, and weep and wail in my old life, my regular life. But I'd remember that, and I'd know that all was not lost, and sort of figure out what to do to replant things.
Yeah. Beautiful, Jill. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I love working on this, by the way. This is wonderful to do today. Thank you.
Oh, glad that you could come and share with us. I see Ken has his hand up again. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, just a comment on that verse. That is a tough one. In fact, in the God Man, Purdom added a word. What is the word? I'm not thinking of it now.
He inserted not.
Yeah, and I just saw that reprinted recently somewhere, maybe on an Instagram, and I commented. I don't know if they.
Yeah. So Don Stevens was very upset that Purdom changed that line.
He is, whether he assumed it was too scary for people or he assumed it was an error, I'm not sure, but why he changed it.
Could have been and. I think personally, if I could conjecture, Purdom himself didn't like the idea of letting his own garden be destroyed, so he changed it for himself.
Wasn't he famous for developing garden homes in England and before he killed Baba?
Perhaps. This might be a good juncture for me to tell a story. Should I tell a quick story here about the new life? It's a very, very long story, but I'm going to make a shorter version of it since we're all together here on the Zoom. I want other people to talk also about their experience. But, Don had been asking Erich for years to tell the story of what it was like to be with Baba on the new life. But Erich wouldn't tell the story. It was obviously too long of a story to tell. And yet Don knew that Erich had to tell the story at some point because it's such an important story. So an amazing thing happened, and Erich was extremely pleased with Don. And I won't tell what happened right now, maybe another time. But Erich said, because of that, now I will tell you what you've been asking me to tell for so long, the story of what it was like to be with Baba on the new life. So Don had a reel-to-reel tape recorder and made tapes of it. I've got the tapes, actually. I've got all kinds of stuff. But the end of the story is Erich says to Don, well, Don, now that I've told you, what do you think of all that? And Don said to Erich, well, Erich, I mean, it's just unbelievable what you all went through and endured. I can't even imagine that kind of hardship. And Erich said, well, then, Don, I've failed you. And Don said, what? No, don't say that. I mean, I loved the way you talked about your experience. And Erich said, no, Don, I have failed you because I have failed to convey the glory of companionship with the avatar. And that, yes, we did all experience all of those things I'm telling you, but it didn't feel like a hardship at all because of Baba's presence and companionship. And that struck Don so deeply that from that point on, he was like obsessed with this idea of Baba as a companion, and that the tone had shifted on the new life and after that it went from Baba being first a perfect master. Many of the people around Baba first thought he was a perfect master, then the avatar, and then it shifted from being the avatar to being a spiritual companion and an elder brother, because he refused to allow anybody to call him avatar or any of these things. He said, if you have to say who I am, just say I'm your elder brother. So Don thought that was fantastic, and that it never quite went back to the way it was before the new life, that Baba somehow set a pattern of spiritual companionship that had never quite been done before in any other Advent. So I thought that was fantastic. Any thoughts on that? I see Ken.
I have a thought that
Ron.
Baba brought in Avatar publicly the title Avatar publicly in 54 when he was in Mehewa village in the Hamirpur district. And that's when everybody started to say Avatar Mayor Baba Ki Jai. So there's that.
Yeah. And that was after the new life.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Vanessa, you have something?
Yeah, but can you pull up the song again?
Yeah.
Okay, in the verse where he talks about the brotherhood and inviting suffering.
The enjoyment of suffering.
Right. So wait, I want to talk about that. Here it is, right? Is that it?
There it is.
Yeah. So it says, there is no small or great now for us all. The questions of disciple, master, or godhood no longer arise. Brotherliness or fellow feeling is a link that exists. So I think that speaks to what we're all talking about Baba being the companion, right? Because you're not thinking of him as the master or God, or, you know, everybody is on that equal ground and having this experience of the brotherhood. But then it says the brotherliness or the fellow feeling is the link that exists. And this contributes to our present enjoyment of the suffering. So I think this whole paragraph right there just describes what Eric was trying to convey. But also, like, it spoke to me because Laurent and I, you know, had ended up going to a CC for the first Sahavas that they had over there. And so I was able to, in real time, read this little book called The Little Flowers of St. Francis. And we would read a chapter in the evening and sit on our rooftop in our little Airbnb in Assisi. And one of the chapters that I read, which is about, it's all the accounts of the brothers of St. Francis and their time with him. So it's like, you know, the Mandali writing about Baba. So it's very, very intimate, very sweet. But there was a chapter that kind of struck me because St. Francis would, you know, walk through the mountains and he'd have either one or two or three brothers with him. And in this case, he had Brother Leo with him. And Brother Leo and him were walking through the mountains. And St. Francis says, Brother Leo, do you know what perfect joy is? And he's like, no, you know, like, tell me what perfect joy is. And St. Francis goes, oh, well, perfect joy is not knowing, you know, the names of all the stars and how they affect one's, you know, life. It's like, okay, well, then what is it? Okay, well, you know, perfect joy is not in being able to commune with the animals and the plants and, you know, have that voice and that, you know, well, okay, well, what is it? And so 4 hours of walking through the mountains continues with Francis saying what perfect joy is not. And finally, Leo's fed up and he's like, wow, this is ridiculous. I, you know, how much longer do we have to walk if I find out what perfect joy is? So it's at the end of the day now, and they're walking and they're finally coming up to what looks like a little, I don't know, like a monastery or church or something. And so they needed a place to sleep. So that he goes up, St. Francis, you know, and Brother Leo go up to the door and they knock. And the guy opens the door and looks at them, you know, and sees them, you know, dressed in like rags and they're dirty and they've been walking all day. And he's like, you know, can we have a place, you know, to stay tonight? And the guy just berated him, started, you know, cussing at him, and then threw something out at them and slammed the door. And he looked at Brother Leo. He goes, therein lies perfect joy. And then they go to the next place to find sleep, and it's even worse. They get hit and beaten by, you know, sticks. So now they're both laying next to stones at night, bloodied and beaten, no food. And St. Francis is explaining to Brother Leo that herein lies perfect joy. And so to me, that also speaks to the fact that, you know, here you have this brotherhood between Brother Leo and Francis is, you know, giving him this experience that maybe Brother Leo at the time doesn't understand to be perfect joy. But now I think Baba as the avatar is setting us up, you know, to where all of humanity is going to be living that. And I feel like in our lives as Baba lovers, like, at least from the accounts that I hear from, you know, friends and family, is that, you know, we're all, it's like we're all being, you know, all of our attachments are being shaved from us, and, you know, all of our expectations. And, you know, it's a gradual thing for us. But I feel like, you know, now reading the Song in the New Life, I'm definitely on some aspect closer to that than I was, you know, even 10 years ago. And I see that, you know, even in the people around me, I feel like Baba is really manifesting in that way.
That was beautiful, love. I just want to tack on one tiny thing. I was contemplating this morning what we're going to talk about tonight. And I said, if I read these Song of the New Life and these quotes, besides Baba and the Mandali, who lived this? And I immediately thought of St. Francis and his brothers, the spiritual brothers. They lived it. They really did. Yeah, Rick, go ahead. You're on mute, Rick.
I'm starting to think what the tune that they sang was. Is that the Jim Meyer version, or did he come up with his own? Anybody know?
Oh, they had an Indian tune. It wasn't Jim Meyer's tune.
Okay.
So the only one I know who knows the tune is Elaine Cox, and she had them sing the version that Baba and the Mandali sung, which was not in English, on a tape called the Song of Huma. So if you have the Song of Huma tape, that song is on there, Song of the New Life, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, they still sell that at Sherry. I was just there the other day.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I guess they have it on a CD-ROM now, but I used to have it the tape. Oh, there's Ron's trying to show us the little flowers of St.
There's
Francis.
St. Francis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Vanessa has to go. She'll be back. Ken, go ahead.
A quick St. Francis story
Yeah.
today, because of course St. Francis Day is, I think, the 4th of October.
Oh,
So it really aligns. This morning I got up at 4 and I was sitting for a while, and then I came and sat on my other chair and put the light on to read from Lord Mayher. I've been going through all the volumes. And all of a sudden I noticed something on my pair of pants that was laying next to me on that I left there the night before. And there's something on the pants, a little object. It's right here. And I don't know if you can see it. At first it looked very odd. Where's the camera?
the camera's
Anyway.
actually right in the middle of your screen.
Yeah, you
Is it
can't
like a
tell,
bird?
but it's a
Looks like a
little
bird.
bird that broke off of my St. Francis statue. And somehow it fell from the top of the bookcase there and
Wow.
landed in front of me on my pants that were laying there
Wow.
on the morning of the New Life.
Wow. That happened today?
This morning, yeah. So it was just another little Baba reminder.
Yeah, a little reminder.
But
Awesome.
that connection of Francis, of course, and the New Life. And something Rick said earlier, and I want to say hi to Rick, of course. Good to see you, brother. I think you mentioned freedom. On some of the programs today, they mentioned Mani mentioning the feeling of freedom. You know, even though there are all those restrictions in the New Life. And it wasn't because they had freedom from family or whatever, you know, but it was some kind of deep inner freedom that they felt in that life with Baba, despite all the restrictions and limitations they were suffering under. So that's, for me, something to sort of contemplate and
Awesome.
aspire to or be open to, experiencing a little.
Well, one of the other things I wanted to share, unless somebody has more to share on what we've been talking about the new life, is I was recently in New York for the Northeast Gathering, and I was able to give a talk there about love. Rick and Paula were there, a few others were there. And I wanted to share a couple of the things that we shared there because I thought it would be really nice. Are you okay with that? Can you see this document that I have here?
We're saying it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
One of my favorites is gatherings and meetings in my name should be a channel for the expression of my love, and to give them any other importance is to misunderstand my cause. When I first read that, I thought, holy cow, this is exactly what needs to be the start of all the meetings I ever go to. It's so great. And then I put another one that for me is incredibly powerful. Being is dying by loving. And, I think we could talk about both of those, but there's a whole bunch more quotes if you guys want to see some of the other ones. But the idea is that, when we focus on Baba as love and our love for him and his love for us, I think we can't really go wrong. Does anybody want to share something about that?
I want to share. I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of these quotes here are about love.
Yeah.
And so I made a tune for one of maybe Mani's favorite Baba quote, which she kept on her desk, I understand. I don't remember seeing it myself, but I've heard that she kept this quote on her desk, and I set it to a tune.
Can we hear it?
If you have that love for me that St. Francis had for Jesus, not only will you realize me, but you will please me.
I love that. I love that.
It's quite something. And all those different ways of realizing Baba, he only mentions one person. Somehow that one person got into the the ways of realizing him, and that was St. Francis.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
pretty special.
Very special. Jill, I see your hand got up.
Yeah, I don't know how well you'll think this fits the conversation because I'm diverting it a bit onto the topic of fashion. But there's two memories I wanted to try to share briefly. One is one time in India on New Life Day after so Alan Wagner had cooked a special breakfast. I think it was Rava. And then we went to Marazad. And I just remember being by Pandu, and it was a very cold day. And he had all these extra clothes on to keep himself warm and a hat. And there was just an atmosphere about him of that freedom, the freedom they talked of. So I know that you've experienced that too, then, Laurent, with some of them. And there's no words for it, but it reminded me of the joy, the joy of of Baba, and how Christianity always came at me as, take up your cross. Whereas Baba's invitation was to first of all experience his tremendous love and joy and bliss. And that sort of enables me, at least, to just to cope with the downside. And the other example was just Francis of Assisi. I guess this shows how far I have to go to be, to be a real renunciate. But I was able to go to the cave twice when my family was in Assisi. And the first morning I went, it was, I injured my foot the night before, and I was going to walk up to the cave, and this very fancy car, lovely, sleek, expensive car, came driving by, and my foot hurt so much. On impulse, I, made the hitchhiking sign. They picked me up, and it was a wonderful ride to the cave. And then on the way down, it was raining, and I had not proper shoes, and my feet got soaked. And it was supposed to rain the next day when I'd be going back to the cave. And I just told Baba, well, this is pretty tough, and I hate to complain, but gosh, it's cold. And I happened to pass a shoe shop, and it was closed, but I stood because there was a pair of really warm looking sneakers in the window. And I was staring at them when a woman poked her head out the window, called down to me, and I said, I just need some warm shoes. So she opened up her shop for me, and I got some warm shoes, and I went to the next coffee shop and got some coffee. And I'm just mentioning this because even in the new life, there's stories of these little things that would happen. Like once when the women were craving tea, and Baba arranged after a couple of hours for, a huge tea service to be brought. They could have all the cups they wanted on the train. I just wanted to mention that side of it, and how, and to finish up with the fashion, is one winter day I went to Marazad, and I was dressed in layered clothing. And I went back to the porch, and the women mandali exclaimed that I looked just like them on the new life. And it just, these little things
Yeah.
brought this breeze. So I hope I didn't talk too long.
No, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. It actually reminded me of one of the stories that Mani told. I don't know if she told this in Mandalay Hall or if it's in that book that Don put together of all the tapes. I guess it's Tales from the New Life is what it is, with Erich and even Mara and Mani and Goher all chimed in. But I was curious about how bad the New Life really got. And I think it was Mani who said that the worst it got was way up north in Dehradun, and it was cold, and they had to sleep on the ground, and their hands were so cold they couldn't even move their fingers. And she remembered one night a mouse was nibbling on one of her fingers, and I thought, wow, that is bad. It wasn't just a show, right? Baba wasn't putting on a show by going on the New Life. It was truly difficult.
Laura, may I add one more little story? This is Meru.
Sure.
Once I asked Meru, I said, on the new life, did they have to give up tea? And Meru said, oh no, we couldn't have made it without tea.
Right. Well, and I think you all know this part of the story, that Baba would send them all out begging, and Baba himself would beg. And Erich would beg at, I think somebody told Erich while he was begging not to beg at the front door. Somebody that he was begging from or saw him begging said, don't do that at the front door, because the man comes to the front door and he's going to be hard on you. Go around to the back of the house, and the women will give you food at the back of the house near the kitchen. So Erich was able to take that advice and go to the back of houses and beg. And Erich was really good at it. And he got lots of great, I guess they call it biksha, right? Like alms. And he got lots of food. And then they would all bring it back to Baba, and Baba himself would portion it out to everybody and with his own hand. And then there was one time when Erich went begging, and the man of the house saw Erich and said, what? You're strong and smart. Why don't you come stay with me, live with me? You shouldn't be begging. And Erich had to explain that was very kind of the guy to try to adopt him, but he couldn't do that, and he had to go back to be with his elder brother and all that kind of stuff. So there's so many great stories. If you haven't read that book, Tales from the New Life, I think is what it's called. Anybody else have something?
One story I think that comes from the New Life, it might not be the New Life, I think it is, where Baba would ask a couple of disciples to go out and find him a pure white horse or something like that. Find a pure white horse and then ask the person if they would be willing to let us have it. Now, I mean, this
Yeah,
is
that
this sounds
horse,
kind of insane. However,
that horse was named Sufi. Go ahead. That horse was named Sufi.
okay, well, so they asked Baba, how do we go about doing that, Baba? Oh, he said that's pretty simple. Just the first person you see that you think will give you a white horse, just ask him. And and that's it worked out. Kind of magical.
Yeah, incredible.
There's a lot of magic in the New Life tale, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Laura, I had a question. Did Don ever express any sentiment about not having been part of the New Life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not to me. Not to me. The one thing that he said that was even remotely related to anything like that is that he felt some sort of strange, like, I don't know if you'd call it guilt or um, not remorse, but like it's hard to find the right words for this, but like he was not living properly based on the fact that Baba and the Mandali were living in such austere conditions just in their daily life that here he was flying around the world. He would literally be, wined and dined and sometimes given a geisha girl to do tricks. They did these like party tricks and all that. So Don was living sort of a double life where he was an oil executive for Chevron. And then when he got a chance, he'd fly over and be with Baba. And Baba said, you don't have to call or cable or write to me. Just come. Anytime you're anywhere near me, just come. So Don could just walk in to Mandalay Hall. And he said, Baba would say, oh, good, Don. We're just about to start a game of cards. Come sit with us. It was very casual. But he got to the point where he said that he was feeling like it wasn't right for him to be living this life that he was living as an oil executive. So he conjured up in his mind that he should quit Chevron and become like a social worker or something like that, to do something more in keeping with Baba's lifestyle. So he tried to explain this to Baba, and Baba wasn't having it. And Baba looked at him and said, yeah, well, who do you think put you in your job? And he says, because it's the perfect role and job for you to work out the impressions that you need to work out in this lifetime. And Baba made it abundantly clear he had no interest in Don changing his livelihood or the pattern of his life for the reasons that Don was thinking, that it wasn't spiritual enough or it wasn't Baba enough or this enough or that enough. And so he felt Baba saying, no, do that, but be honest. Promise you'll be honest at your work. So Don said, I promise, Baba. And then Don said they made this giant mistake at Chevron. It was a really, really bad oil deal mistake. And Don knew that it was the company's mistake. But if they admitted it, it would cost them millions of dollars because it was a bad mistake. And so Don's boss came to him and said, well, Don, what do you think we should do about it? And Don remembered his promise to Baba and looked at his boss, and he knew he was in a bind. He said, well, I think we should admit our mistake. And then his boss said, that would be a very costly admission. And Don said, yes, I know. But I think that's the right thing to do. And the boss looked at him and said, I agree with you, Don. And he was, oh my gosh. Whew. And so then the next time he saw Baba, Baba said, Don, does your boss at Chevron allow you to be honest at work? And then Don reviewed all these situations and said, he does. He does. And Baba was very pleased. So there was this sense that Don's work in big oil, in what people thought was an evil industry, was exactly what Baba wanted for Don. And then what happened was, if you read, I wrote a biography of Don called An Almost Perfect Balance. When they're at the East-West Gathering in 62, I believe it was, Baba turns to Don at one point and says, you wanted to tell a story, Don? And Don said, oh, yes, right. So Baba says, tell everybody the story. And so Don said, well, I had come from India with films that I had taken of Baba, and I mentioned it to somebody at work, and they said, we want to see the films. So he had set up a special screening of a Baba film that he had made for his executives at Chevron. So, there's this kind of notion that things aren't always as they seem. And we know Lud Dimphel came from Chevron also. He came to Baba through Don, and others were certainly, if not fond of Baba, learned about Baba. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that this applies to each and every one of us. Baba has us in exactly the role we need to be in.
That's an interesting thing to say. I am somewhat allergic to that way of going about it, but I can hear what you're saying. I think it's for each one of us to figure that out with Baba, and that all I can tell you is that story helped me to stay in my IT career, computer career, when I was doubting myself and thinking, oh, geez, should I become a social worker or whatever the heck I thought was more spiritual? And in fact, what's ended up happening was, in my own life, through embracing my IT career, which many people would say is not spiritual at all, it's provided me the funding to do the spiritual stuff on the side, which is, so for me, it doesn't all have to be in one role, right? I can have my practical role and do whatever I feel I need to do for Baba. Yeah. Thanks for the questions, Rick. Love the questions. Any other questions?
I share that IT experience, Baba.
Oh yeah, I love IT.
I have something to add to the thing about giving or Don's feeling guilty or whatever it was that he felt because the other people around Baba were having very little, and he was having an abundance.
That's right.
At least it seemed that way. It seemed that way to him, and so he was feeling badly about it, and thinking of not having it. So similarly, Bal Kalchuri, when he was watching, doing night watch for Baba, he would be waiting for Baba to come, and then he would start that role as night watchman. And so there was a period of time when Baba would greet him by giving him a banana. And it just so happened that nobody was getting bananas at that time. This was something very unique. None of the other mandali were given bananas. And so he was, at one point, after taking it a couple of times, Baba gave him another one, and he said, Baba, I don't think it's right for me to have this banana. None of the other mandali are, having bananas. I don't feel like I deserve it, or whatever he said. And Baba said, you have it, you're thinking about it from your own perspective. You have to just do what I say and take what I'm giving you, and then we'll make something out of it. But if you reject whatever I give you, whether it's be pleasurable or challenging, it's not going to help anything. And that's
a
something
wonderful
we
story.
all can relate to, right?
That's an incredible story. I love that. Thank you for the banana story. I never heard that before.
I don't remember where I saw it, but maybe Bao told it.
You could have told that.
That'd been the most likely.
Yep.
I'm gonna say good night. Thank you.
Ricky, so good to see
Good
you.
night.
Yeah, see you again.
Jay Baba.
Jai Baba.
Well, it's at the 1 hour mark. Do we want to wrap it up, go around and do final thoughts and feelings? Any burning desires?
What would you like to do, Laurent?
Me?
Yeah.
If you leave it to me, I'll tell you exactly. I did see Rick come off of mute.
I was just going to say that I know certainly for myself, and I think maybe there's a general sense of us all having a pretty idealized sense of what real spiritual experience is and how it manifests in the world and in our individual lives. So I was thinking about bananas and similar ideas. I think, you know, it's easy for us to miss the point that God is in all of it.
I love that, Rick. Can I add a little bit that I heard, and then I'll answer Ron's question. The question I asked a long time ago when I first came to Baba in 1986, I asked a friend of mine, a longtime Baba lover, and I said, did anybody ever ask Baba what's the most difficult thing spiritually? And he said, oh, yes. I thought, oh, I want to hear this. Because I was, at that time, I was just brand new to Baba, and I was looking for something to hang on to. It was really hard when I first came to Baba. And he said, well, Baba said, the most difficult thing on the spiritual path, be perfectly human. And boy, I did not want to hear that answer. I did not like that answer at all. But the older I get, the more that makes sense.
Wait a minute. I didn't hear what you said. I was just leaving the room, but say it again.
Only for you, Marilyn, only for you. I asked a friend of mine, did anybody ever ask Baba what's the most difficult thing spiritually? And he said, oh, yes. Baba said, the most difficult thing on the spiritual path is to be perfectly human. And I love it. I love it now. I didn't love it when I heard it when I was 17 years old or 18, but it makes more and more sense to me now than it ever did when I ever heard it when I was younger. So the last thing in response to Ron is, can we all just be with Baba together in silence before we wrap it up? Spend a moment or two with Baba in silence. Does that sound good? All right, let's try that.
And who is more perfectly human than Baba himself?
I know. All right, let's do a moment of silence with Baba, Jai Baba. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba
Baba,
Ki Jai.
Jai.
Avatar Mere
Baba,
Baba Ki
Jai.
Jai. Jai Baba, everyone.
Thanks, Laurent.
Thank you, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Laurent and Vanessa.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ken.
Vanessa, thanks for that story of St. Francis.